a $200,000 case for Bitcoin. Yes, that's what we're going to cover today. A $200,000 case for Bitcoin. If you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, help me get to 1,000 subscribers because I want to bring more value to you. Well, we've seen a big drawdown in Bitcoin. It's like $30,000 today, give or take. $200,000, is it possible this year, next year? Well, let's have a look. But before we do, if you don't know me by now, my name is Jagir. I'm the award-winning author of The Extraordinary New Venture Capital Opportunity, How to Invest Like a Pro. I was also featured in the best-selling book, High Probability Trading Strategies, back in 2008. Been doing a lot of stuff in currencies for the last 15 years, but now I've really focused on crypto. So what I love to do in life, and I cover it in my book, one of my chapters in my book is called The Rubik's Cube Philosophy. Now, what that means, before we do a deep dive in Bitcoin, because I want you to get this philosophy in your mind, is stand on the shoulders of others where we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I teach this to my staff members. It's called the Rubik's Cube philosophy. Now, if you've come across the Rubik's Cube, it is the world's most impossible puzzle. Well, that's how it's deemed to be anyway. But there is a method to the madness. And I want to show you something. Check this out, right? Look, you see this is shuffled at the top, right? I've half done it already because I just want to show you something. Boom. Top is done. Now these edges are all jumbled up and it's very difficult to do. However, if you have the formula, then all of a sudden, what is normally deemed as impossible is going to become very possible. Bump, bump, bump. Let's see, bump, and bump. There we go, completed. Right? If you want to see me do the full Rubik's Cube, let me know in the comments below. I will show you. But the principle is there's method to this. And when we're thinking about Bitcoin, crypto, investing, managing risk, taking profit, etc., there's tried and tested methodologies. And today we are going to lean on Pantera. Pantera Capital. Pantera Capital. Pantera Capital, let's jump into their website. Who are these guys? If you've not heard of Pantera Capital, they're one of the biggest venture capitalists in the blockchain space. They run hedge funds. They're one of the first, if not the first. So if we look at their website, so the first US institutional asset manager focused exclusively on blockchain. And they have a whole load of different funds. They have some amazing stuff. I highly recommend going to their website, panteracapital.com. You know, you can read about the history and everything else. But there's something in particular I want to look at. You know, here's the founder, the CEO on the left, Dan Moorhead, absolute legend. And we want to learn from him because he's been in the space for 8 years. 8 years with Pantera Capital, pretty much the very beginning. You can even click on their investment letter, and they talk a lot about Bitcoin, a lot of sense about Bitcoin, but on the macro picture. But they had this great video released in April, the case for blockchain investment, the case for blockchain investment. And a part of this video, you can see it on YouTube, is about Bitcoin. So I'm going to play a couple of bits for you. The whole video is an hour, so I'm not going to play the whole hour. I'm just going to do 2 snippets of 1 minute, and then I just want to kind of give you a flavor for the case of a $200,000 Bitcoin. Not from me, but from Dan Moorhead from Pantera Capital. Because sometimes it's not clear that these guys exist and that you have access to them to get learnings from their knowledge and wisdom. So let's go full screen and let's just play this. This one's going to be roughly a minute. So Dan, what you got for us?
There's nothing else in somebody's portfolio that could actually.
Right, let me turn this volume up. There we go. Dan, over to you.
Go up 10, 20, 30x, which Bitcoin can't. So here's a graph of Bitcoin over the many years, graph exponentially to take out the crazy disruptive growth curve of it. It's actually really, really consistent. Bitcoin goes up at a compound annual growth rate of 213%. It's been doing that for 10 years. And so when people ask, what is my forecast for where Bitcoin will be a year from now? I've been saying, and I will continue to say, it's going to be 213% higher, because that's basically what happens every year.
So hopefully you could hear that. And if you couldn't, what Dan has realized over the last 10 years is Bitcoin compounded every single year 213%. So he doesn't speculate on short-term price action. He's looking at the really big grand picture. So when he has his Bitcoin fund, with Pantera Capital, they're for high net worth individuals, it's $100,000 minimum, and they got a new fund which is $1 million minimum. So for the big players, but they don't speculate on this particular fund. It's just buy and hold, and they've realized that every year on average, Bitcoin increases by 213%. So now we're going to jump into another clip. And hopefully you can hear this I'm going to make sure my volume's on absolute maximum. Yeah, it is. And Dan will make sure this is on maximum as well. All right, so now we're going to go into the second clip. And again, this is going to talk about the case for Bitcoin, what and why Pantera Capital believe that Bitcoin will hit 200,000 by 2022. So let's have a look what Dan says.
Zero correlation certainly deserves to have a couple of percent in anyone's portfolio. So when thinking about valuing Bitcoin, and how one gets their head around it, a lot of it is just supply and demand. The more people use it, the more the price goes up. And we just published in our investor letter a table that I love. It's one of my favorite graphics we've ever done. The price of Bitcoin has been incredibly consistently connected to the number of people using Bitcoin, and it's been doing this again for 10 years. So for 10 years, the number of people using Bitcoin has gone up by 1 order of magnitude every 2 years, and the price of Bitcoin has gone up by exactly 1 order of magnitude every 2 years. There's only
So what Dan's realized is, supply and demand. As the users increase, the wallets increase for Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin is almost correlated directly. There's ups and downs in between. So if we look at this, what he says here, number of people using Bitcoin in May 2012 was 10,000, and the price of Bitcoin was $2. Now it jumped up to 100,000 at the end of May 2012, December 2012, 100,000 users, and the price jumped up by a magnitude of 10 also. So the price of Bitcoin was around $20. Then in November 2013, we had 1 million users in Bitcoin. Then the price went up to 200. They said there was a particular year, which was the May 2016, that didn't correlate as cleanly. But going to December 2020, we had 100 million users of Bitcoin, and the price was 20,000. And he says he's estimating, going by this growth curve of users, is by sometime in 2022, early mid 2022, definitely by the end, I say definitely, high probability by the end of 2022, we should see 1 billion users in Bitcoin, which would more than be probable for a $200,000 Bitcoin. How cool is that? But let's see what he says here, because there's something else that he says, because there's a correlation between people who have mobile wallets and who's likely to use Bitcoin or have a Bitcoin wallet. So let's just watch this last bit.
One exception, in February 2016, the price was slow to catch up, but to my mind, this is just an amazing, amazing change to have 2 pieces of data go up 5 orders of magnitude over 10 years and have that hold. So thinking about where that could go, there are 3.5 billion people on Earth with a smartphone, and a smartphone is the only requirement to participate in the blockchain ecosystem. So if you extrapolate this out, price would hit 700,000 at some point. A lot of people have competed to make the craziest forecast for the future price of Bitcoin, most not based on anything whatsoever. This one actually seems pretty real and pretty doable. So I think at some point you will ultimately see the price of Bitcoin hit something like this. Okay.
So there you have it. There's different ways of doing technical analysis, fundamental analysis, but this is one of the data points that Pantera Capital, one of the biggest VC firms that have a Bitcoin fund that give exposure to Bitcoin to high net worth individuals, and they're seeing, right, there's a direct correlation with other products also, that the more users there are, the higher the price goes. So he's also said, look, there's 3.5 billion people today on the planet that have a mobile phone. Now, if they all had a Bitcoin wallet opened on their mobile phone, the likely price in some time, it's a big question mark, terminal value, meaning, sometime in the future, a $700,000 Bitcoin. But 2022, which is not that far away, we're in coming towards the end of July. So we've got about 5 more months of this year, then we're into 2022. And at some point we'll see, there's another part of his investment letter that he talks about $115,000 Bitcoin this year. I think he's predicted it for August for Pantera Capital. If that occurs, they've been pretty much bang on the money minus a few weeks and months. So they're really seeing the supply demand model. But $200,000, there you have it. Not me saying it, is Dan Moorhead. He's a real clever guy. He basically manages billions and billions of dollars of other people's money in the Pantera Capital fund. They don't only do Bitcoin exclusively, they do other things also. So if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Let me know what you think of today, because today was about fundamentals. Some fundamental analysis, not on the psychology of the buying and selling speculation on short term. It was about metrics on the growth of the industry. Blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto, and that's what they've projected. There you have it. So let's finish with a quote of the day. Quote of the day is, Let's have a look. The Losing Investor. All right, it's from the book The Winning Investment Habits of Warren Buffett and George Soros. So this is what we don't want to do, right? The losing investor doesn't realize that a deep understanding of what he is doing is an essential prerequisite to success. Really realizes that profitability or profitable opportunities exist and quite probably abound within his own area of expertise. That was a terrible job at reading that, didn't I? I used to be a math teacher, not an English teacher. So really realizes that profitable opportunities exist within his own area of expertise. In other words, if you want to win, dive deep, read the newsletter of Pantera Capital, kind of keep on track of everything else. And if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and let me know what you think of this style of video, because there's so many gems on the internet today, but they're hidden, and sometimes it's easier for me to just bring them forth to you and say, hey, what's someone like Dan Moorhead saying about Bitcoin? Pantera Capital CEO. We want to listen to that because there's a lot of noise in the news, and he's not someone that's listening to that news. He's buying Bitcoin for long-term buy and hold. All right, I'll see you soon.